Gettysburg is one of those places, not because of what people claim to experience here today, but because of what happened here more than 160 years ago. Walk these fields and it's difficult not to notice the silence. Visitors lower their voices without thinking. It's as if the landscape seems to ask them to. It's peaceful now, beautiful even. Rolling farmland stretches into the distance. Stone walls divide open fields. Memorials stand where ordinary men once stood. Nothing immediately prepares you for the fact that this quiet countryside became the setting for one of the bloodiest battles ever fought. 3 days, more than 50,000 casualties, a nation changed forever. This is the story of Gettysburg. By the summer of 1863, the American Civil War had already devastated the country. For more than 2 years, brother had fought brother. Communities had been torn apart, families divided. Neither side could see a clear end. General Robert E. Lee believed that changing the war meant carrying it north. If the Confederate Army could defeat Union forces on the northern soil, public support for the war might collapse. Perhaps even foreign governments would finally recognize the Confederacy. It was an enormous gamble. Waiting for him was the newly appointed commander of the Union Army, General George Gordon Meade. Remarkably, neither man intended to fight at Gettysburg. The town simply lay where several important roads met. Almost by chance, both armies converged there. History would never be the same again. On the morning of the 1st, Confederate soldiers approached Gettysburg searching for supplies. Instead, they encountered Union cavalry. What began as a relatively small engagement quickly escalated. More soldiers arrived, then more, and by midday thousands of men were pouring into the area. Gunfire echoed across the surrounding farmland. Cannons shook the ground. Smoke drifted across the wheat fields that only days earlier had been ready for harvest. Union troops fought stubbornly, but throughout the afternoon, they were slowly forced back through the streets of Gettysburg itself. Imagine living there. Imagine watching soldiers run past your front door. Windows shattered, church bells ringing, families hiding in cellars. Homes transformed into hospitals before sunset. By evening, the Union Army had withdrawn to higher ground south of the town. The first day belonged to Lee, but everyone knew the worst was still to come. The second day would become one of the fiercest days of fighting in American history. Lee launched repeated attacks against the Union line. The battle spread across the places those names would become legendary. The Peach Orchard, the Wheat Field, Cemetery Ridge, Little Round Top, Devil's Den. Each one witnessed extraordinary bravery. Each one demanded an unimaginable cost. Perhaps nowhere better illustrates that cost than Little Round Top. Union soldiers defended the rocky hill against repeated Confederate attacks. As ammunition began to run out, their commander made a desperate decision. Fix bayonets, charge! Instead of waiting, they ran downhill, directly towards the attacking force. The gamble worked. The hill remained in Union hands. Many historians believe that single decision helped shape the outcome of the entire battle. Visibility vanished. Units became separated. Officers lost sight of their own men. Many soldiers never even saw who fired the shot that struck them. The landscape itself became an enemy. When the fighting finally ended, the rocks remained exactly where they'd always been. Silent, unchanged, watching over everything that had happened. By the morning of the 3rd of July, both armies had already suffered terrible losses. Many commanders believed the battle had reached its breaking point. Lee disagreed. He believed one final assault, straight through the center of the Union line. This could still secure victory. Shortly after 1 o'clock, around 150 Confederate cannons opened fire. The bombardment lasted almost 2 hours. The noise was deafening. Smoke covered the fields. The earth itself seemed to shake. Then, everything stopped. For a brief moment, there was silence. Across almost a mile of open ground, approximately 12,500 Confederate soldiers stepped forward. Flags waved above the smoke. Officers shouted commands, and drums beat steadily. This would become known as Pickett's charge. The soldiers advanced with extraordinary courage, but courage could not overcome the open ground before them. Union artillery tore gaps through the advancing lines. Rifle fire intensified with every step. Some soldiers reached the stone wall. Most never did. Within an hour, the attack had collapsed. Lee's invasion of the North was over. When the battle finally ended, Gettysburg no longer resembled the town it had just been 3 days earlier. Around 51,000 soldiers had been killed, wounded, captured, or reported missing. Months later, a national cemetery was created overlooking the battlefield. It was here that President Abraham Lincoln delivered one of the most famous speeches in history. Just 272 words, barely 2 minutes long, yet powerful enough to redefine the meaning of sacrifice made here. Today, millions of people visit Gettysburg each year. Some come because they love history. Others come to honor those who never returned home. Many simply stand quietly, looking across the same fields, trying to imagine the unimaginable. And perhaps that's why Gettysburg feels different. Not because of stories, not because of folklore, but because there are very few places on Earth where history feels quite this close, where silence seems to carry its own weight, where the landscape itself appears unwilling to forget. Because after the battle ended, and after the armies marched away, another story slowly began. One that still draws people here today. Gettysburg never truly fell silent. Because some believe something stayed here. If places where history refused to fade fascinate you, subscribe.